Bandotaro. That's our making machine. And so this is like all-in-one machine that's got a mixer, that's got a press, and that's got a sheeting function, and it's got the cutter, right? And it's got the tray that like moves like horizontally to collect noodles to basically make it like kind of really beautiful, reorganized, make the noodles like beautifully organized like when you take them out, and that makes it like easy for you to store. Okay, so let's get started. So like this is the mixer that I was talking about, and so this is just buckwheat flour, just pure buckwheat flour, like just buckwheat flour, like nothing else in it. So this is the speed, volume. So the speed, like rotational speed, like we start from the highest speed, fastest speed, right? And then so first, like we do the hydration, like we just do like kind of mixing, right? Kind of rotating the mixer, like just by the flour by itself without any liquid, just for about like 1 minute. And yeah, like in hand making, like people, I mean, the professional noodle making artisans, like they usually sift the flours, right? The sieve, right? And then just to make sure like all these like flour particles are like kind of like sifted through, and then they all like well it's like into like each broken into like each particle, and so we add water. It's just water, nothing else in it, just water. And you maybe like notice like there are holes in the lid, right? And so the water is like kind of dripping through the holes, little by little to the flour, and yeah, added to the flour. So like so these holes like can allow us to do hydration gradually. So the like drips of like water is like added to the flour a little by little, and it's like because otherwise if we add like a lot of water like at once, right, and then you're gonna have like some parts of the dough like that's like really wetter than the other parts, and that's not good. Like we are talking about um, yeah, it's like equal amount of like water kind of distributed like throughout the entire part of the flour, I mean the dough, and so that's what we are aiming at. So that's important. And so kind of same as like hand making, when we're doing like well, more like hand making like artisans, like professionals are kind of agitating flour with a hand, right, like with a finger. So make these like um, they make these hands, right, like, and then just move their hands like fast, right, and then like the front bottom, they agitate the flour, right, and as they add bit of like water, and so it's the same thing that's happening like inside this mixer. So like there's a blade, there's a like mixing blade, like kind of agitating the flour like from bottom, and and then at the same time that like it's getting water. So it's like flour has to like fall, right, because of gravity, and then like there's a blade, and that's like rotating like really fast. So um, the flour gets agitated like from bottom, like constantly. So that allows for yeah, granule agitation phenomena, something like that I just explained, right? So like these like flour particles like kind of like come together into like smaller and smaller chunks and into bigger chunks like gradually. So that's what's happening right now inside the mixer. So let's see how it's coming in. All right. So it's like still kind of small chunks, but you guys may be able to like see, like how like all these like little flour particles are like kind of coming together to form into like kind of really small chunks of like dough, right? You guys may be able to notice. Oh, yeah, it just had like really good. It just has like really good smell of buckwheat. It's not like one when she opened the lid. Yeah, so after 4 minutes, it's like make me open it and then kind of clean inside to make sure, the flours and waters are like not like evenly mixed up, right? So, um, she just like cleaned it and then make sure like there's no parts that's like wetter than the other parts, like the rest of the dough, and she closed the lid and like started like restart it and for another for like 5 minutes, 5 more minutes or 6 more minutes, and then yeah, I did the rest of the water. Yeah, so it's time of year. It's this time of year in Japan, like kind of coming November, like early November, like and then like going to like middle November, like it's getting chillier, like every day, like the cooler, right? And so like um, it's a time of year like people start kind of craving for the hot soup noodles, and also like when I think it's like the buckwheat aroma kind of it's ingrained in like Japanese people when it comes to like, and then um, so she slowed down the rotational speed and to well allow the dough like because those like coming bigger and bigger, right? So like well, once it gets to a certain size, then we should slow down the rotation because otherwise, like the dough will be like kind of too hot. Like you kind of, well, if you just keep going right at the same speed, like faster, then, the dough gets well, like kind of heat generated like inside dough, gets hotter and hotter, like and then that's not good. That may like grow some germs in there. So and yeah, actually like some enzyme too. So it's not good. So usually like from this process, you go slow and to allow the dough to be, well, gets bigger at a slow pace. So yeah, so it's getting cooler, right? And like people started like craving for like hot soup noodles, and then that's November, and next month like that's December, and then the end of like year, New Year Eve, like we have like the really kind of famous tradition of like eating hot soup like soba noodles. Yeah, so it's coming, right? So that dough is getting bigger and bigger, and yeah, so we did maybe like few classes on soba noodles, and then like even on this machine. So if you guys are interested in like learning about like this machine or like soba noodles in general, please check out our YouTube channel. We should have recordings posted. So imagine like you have to do this by hand, and I'm not just talking about like just one batch, right? If you operate like soba specialty shop, right? Imagine like at lunchtime, like you get like 200 people, and how many times like you have like um, all make soba like right, like flour and the water, and then you had to do them by hand, and that would take up a lot of energy. And yeah, and then so I we hear like a lot of hand making soba professionals, well, kind of getting injury or like like kind of suffer from like chronic pain of all these like yeah, it's like work that they have to put into kind of hand making noodle, just production part, right? So yeah, then that's a like almost like everyday thing, and so that's a tough work, and so yeah, it's so like so we sometimes hear people like kind of interested in like just buying just the mixer, right? Just to like kind of well yeah get out like the daily tough job of like kind of kneading the dough, and that's a relief. That's a big relief for them. Okay, so after 10 minutes of mixing, that's how like buckwheat flour and water turn out to be, and so in hand making, right? So this part is also done by hand, right? And so you would usually like knead them by hand, like that well required some muscle, but we have this machine, press machine, and that would so like flatten the dough, and at the same time like it applies this good pressure into the dough. So after first press, right, you need to like roll it, fold it to apply like pressure to the other areas of dough, and so it's a good thing that like just goes up and down like automatically, that us having to push any button. Yeah, so the dough is, so it means dividing it into chunks. That's that's easier to sheet. So now like she's kneading it into make sure that like all that part or the area of like dough is like smooth, so that while she's like sheeting the dough, well like she's thinning the dough, it's not gonna break or anything. And and this process like kind of done kind of like same as like in hand baking too. So she's like kind of kneading, like kind of pushing it, like kneading it, kind of rubbing it, like as she like kind of rotates the dough, like folds over it, and then so this process is called like kind of hard to say in English, but like we call it like kind of like bringing out like a belly button kind of. So because it just it looks like it, and yeah, like flatten it enough to start thinning. So so we're gonna start sheeting, and so we need to like gradually thin it, and so there's a lever right on the right hand, like left hand side of this machine, and then um, it's like kind of shift gear that like goes from like 1 to like 12, and that kind of narrows the wall gap that this sheet of dough is like going to. So it just gets kind of thinner and thinner gradually. And as you know, like well, soba noodles are usually very thin. It's pretty thin, so uh, we have to yeah make it thinner, thin enough. I think the regular size of like not like what's regular, right? But like um, usually um, like if you eat like Tokyo, I mean if you eat like in soba noodle like in Tokyo somewhere, that standard soba noodle size would be like 1.5 millimeter or something. And now she's kind of using this function of this machine that like kind of rotates. I mean the like wind the dough sheet like into the rolling pin, right? Kind of special rolling pin, and this machine is function because dough sheet like gets bigger and bigger, right? Like as we like thin it. So we run out like the space, workspace like pretty soon. As we like thin the bigger batch of dough. right, bigger dough, and as they get thinner, we don't have space, right? It's like to use this workspace like efficiently, we have this function that sort of allows us to, yeah, wind it kind of automatically. And using this rolling pin, and we have this sensor that detects the thickness of the dough, and that's on the display digitally, and so that kind of shows us like how thick it is right now. And notice like yeah, maybe just kind of constantly dusting it because, well, because it's a high hydration rate noodle, and it's prone to sticking, so we have like constantly dusting. Okay, so right about kind of like target thickness, 1.5, but so it's time to cut, but we need to fold it. We need to fold the dough sheet into the length, I mean the width, right? I mean like kind of folding to fit within the certain space for this dough sheet to fit into the cutter blade width, right? So let's just start cutting. And yeah, and then you can control the width, right? With this scale here, it's like thicker, thinner, and yeah, the noodles are coming out onto the tray that's moving to collect the noodle strands. All right, so that's 100% buckwheat soba noodles, and we can just slide them into this container. All right, so let's go to the kitchen where we're going to cook this noodle, and yeah, and eat it. And okay, so she's our instructor, Misano, and she can show you guys how to cook soba noodles, and how to plate them and hot soup noodle dish. So thank you.
はい、ではそば入れていきたいと思います。
Let's start cooking soba noodles and
で、先ほどちょっと作ってもらったそばを1人前くらい入れていきます。
okay, so just gonna cook just roughly one serving or soba noodles we just made.
で、茹でる時なんですけど、だいたい10倍のお湯、そばに20倍のお湯で茹でていきます。お湯はしっかり沸かしてあげておいてください。
Yeah, so what's important here is that you have to prepare at least 20 times the amount the water, right? The amount of water you have to prepare at least 20 times the amount of the noodles you're cooking. So if you're cooking just 100 grams at a time, then you need to have at least 2 liters of water. That's boiling already. That's boiling already. It's when you add noodles in there, that lowers the temperature of the water, right? So you have to have water that's boiling. And so that was just 20 seconds of cooking time. And so just wash, but kind of softly, gently, because as I said, it's been 100% buckwheat noodles are kind of prone, fragile and prone to breaking. So just gently, yeah, wash them. Then chill them in, ice water. Okay. To tighten the texture. Okay, and so before we plate it, right? We need to warm the noodles. Okay, and let's plate it. Okay, that's hot soup. And kind of make it nice by arranging the noodles and straightening them up. Yeah, look at this prawn tempura. It's beautifully deep fried. So these are kind of chopped up leeks. So these are mitsuba herb. Okay, so that's hot soup 100% buckwheat soba noodles, hot soup, and that's something that people start craving from this time of year, when it's getting chilly, cool, cold, and then and definitely a lot of people are digging into this type of bowl around the kind of New Year's Eve time, it's because that's the same tradition that we have in Japan, and Yeah, so that's beautiful, and that's pretty warm and like kind of well, it's a kind of like soul food for like a lot of like soba eaters that we have in Japan, and so and then it's gluten free, but like by adding the deep fried prawn tempura, that's not gluten free anymore, but like you can definitely of course like use the different toppings on them. So